Now, hello everyone. Good morning. My name is Yannis Koliousis, and we will be discussing today about public transportation models. I'm working with the University of Piraeus and also with a small consultancy firm called Decision Dynamics Limited. And we will discuss today how to increase the ridership and increase the branding and the image of public transportation through various techniques and various actions. This module number 4, is one of the 8 modules that the European funded project Transport Learning is offering, along with parking space management, mobility management, land use and housing, street design, walking and cycling, design and implementation of sustainable mobility campaigns, and communication training. The 5 broad topics that we will be discussing today is the introduction to public transportation, economic concepts of public transportation, improving public transportation, financing, and public transport contracts and assignments. Now, let's start with the public transportation definitions and terms. First of all, public transportation, a broad term that is used by most academicians and practitioners these days. Public transportation comprises of all transport systems in which the passengers do not travel in their own vehicles but share the transport mode, and this happens on an unscheduled and on a non-reservation basis on fixed routes. Now, some types of public transportation, the basic ones: bus, trolleybus, and coaches, rail, including commuter rail and high-speed rail, and also tram and light rail, rapid transit, including metro and subways and other grounds, cable propelled transit, including telepherics, ferry and other waterborne vessels, which are very important in areas that have either rivers or they are close to the sea, taxis, when used for shared rides in some occasions, airplanes. There are also other types of public transportation. Some of the academicians think, or the practitioners think, that these belong to the public transportation network. Some others think that they don't belong. One major example of this one is the bike sharing schemes. In layman's terms, these systems do not directly comprise a public transportation scheme, however, public transportation network. However, the designers and the network planners should include them as they provide good feeder services for the public transport system. Now, why should people rely on public transportation? The advantages of using public transportation is that it's lower cost for the community, either local or regional or even national economy. Public transportation is more energy efficient when used from many people. It has a reduced carbon footprint and pollution. It has increased safety compared to private cars. It has lower traffic congestion. It has smaller urban space requirement, improved accessibility, and improved mobility. Now, the disadvantages, and these are some of the comments that most of the non-users usually say. Set routes are inconvenient in most of the cases. The scheduled times of services are not always suitable for everyone. There's no privacy or limited comfort, especially in cases where too many people try to get into a car, a wagon, or a bus. And of course, the limited space in most of the cases when many people use it and when the systems are congested. Now, public transportation, this is one of the current mottos that are widely used, especially by the European Union, most of the national economies. Public transportation brings value to the local economy and should bring value to the local economy. First of all, it empowers the local economy. If people don't move around and don't move freely, then the economy stops working. This is one of the common points that should be used or are used today, but it is true. If someone doesn't have a bus to go to his job, to his office, or wherever to shop something, this activity and the broader economic activities are not performed. Now, since we are in a crisis period, and at least as Europeans haven't moved beyond this crisis, it's time for a systemic change. It's time to stop using something that's more expensive and something that is not economically justified, and this is the car, and start using something that is cheaper and it can perform the basic activities that we want to. So this is time to abandon the car-dependent lifestyles that we have had. Also, the public transportation companies are those offering safe and green jobs in a city, and actually it's one of the major contributors in the local economy. And studies have shown that each euro that is invested in public transportation, it tends to generate 4 euros in the total economy. The second broader issue is that public transportation helps the planet breathe. If you have seen the statistics there, public transportation and transportation in general are to blame for 30% of the total energy consumption and 19% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the world. Public transportation consumes 3 to 4 times less energy per passenger kilometer. What we said before, and to be more exact on this one, brings everyone everywhere. So if we have an efficient municipal transport system, public transport system, then everyone in the city can go everywhere. It's the most cost-effective mobility scheme compared to other mobility schemes, and it can promote healthier lifestyles and improve safety for all, along with linking people to jobs. Last but not least, it alleviates congestion, and there's no need to build roads. We can dedicate all these roads and all these streets to other activities, most predominantly commercial activities. Now, some economic concepts for public transportation, some basic economic concepts. These are vaguely referred to here so as to understand and see what changes should be done, what attributes should be changed in the public transportation, and understand what actions have to be undertaken in order to improve the ridership. Now, basic market dynamics. On your left here, we have an equilibrium in a market. We have the demand curve and the supply curve, and where those two curves meet, this is the equilibrium. This means that for the price E, the market buys quantity QE. Now, if we change the demand positively, now in this right scheme, in the right figure here, the demand is changed from D to D star. For a higher price, the local economy is willing to accept a higher quantity, and this is where we should dedicate our efforts to increase ridership. Now, on the other way around, the same market equilibrium. Now, if we change the supply of the services for a higher price compared to the price of the previous equilibrium, the market will buy less quantity. Now, these are the basic terms, and this is where I was heading to. One important element to understand these changes and see what is rational and what is not beneficial to do is to start measuring the elasticity of the price. In broad terms, elasticity is the percentage change in quantity times the percentage change in the price. So this ratio, this indicator here, has three different names, has three different definitions. Now, when the demand is elastic, which means that the value of E is above 1, the absolute value of E is above 1, there is the specific case of E of the value of the elasticity being 1, and the inelastic demand where the absolute value of E is less than 1. Now, what does this mean? If we have the special case of E equals 1, it means that no matter what the change of the price will be, we will have a change in the opposite direction of the quantity. Also here in the elastic demand, it means that if we have a change in the price, the change in the quantity will be the exact opposite in the other way, and will be more than the percentage change of the price. And the other way around for the inelastic demand. Now, some transport elasticities and passenger transport elasticities coming from Goodwin. Actually, this study was carried out in 92. However, most of the transport planners use it even today. The figures are not that much different from these days, and we usually put them in action today and see what the changes will be. Now, for example, the petrol consumption with respect to the petrol price, the short term is negative 0.27. Now, the bus demand with respect to the fare cost is negative 0.28. This means that we have an inelastic demand here, and if we increase, for example, 10% the fare cost, the bus demand will decrease by only 2.8%, and so on and so forth. We have here the urban passenger with respect to the price, the urban passenger with respect to the in-vehicle time, the intercity passenger with respect to the price, and the intercity passenger with respect to the travel time, and so on and so forth. Now it's time for you to do an exercise. At your own pace and offline, you can go into the platform, see this table in exercise number 1, and complete the missing fields. Now, public transportation. Now, based on what we said before, in order to change the demand or the supply, there are some attributes, some determinants in the demand or the supply that can be changed in order to increase ridership. Now, which are these determinants? The most important are the availability and the cost of car parking spaces, conditions of traffic congestion and the capacity of the road network, price of petrol, of gasoline, price of public transportation fares, frequency of public transport provision, the duration of the trip with the public transport route and the public transport route itself, the personal security that people feel, the proximity of the residents to the public transport stop, and the perceived problems of public transportation, not the actual problems, but the perceived ones. Now, over here, we can see that when also someone is using public transportation to commute, so when someone wants to commute, he usually uses car instead of public transportation. This goes higher for shopping, but less for education, and for visiting is even higher. Now, we can see here that public transportation is also higher for commuting and visiting, and lower for education and shopping. Now, these are the attributes, as said before, that can be changed or should be considered to be changed in order to affect the ridership, to bring more people into the public transport systems. Now, we said before about the perceived problems. It's not the actual problems that the system may have, but the perceived problems. Inadequate service capacity, some of them. Unreliable service, irregular frequency, coming in and out the buses or the trains whenever they want. Poor route coverage, excessive transfer requirements between routes. It has been shown that if more than 2 interchanges or transfers are required, then someone will not use the public transportation. He will rely on other means. Excessive fares, low profitability, excessive subsidy requirement, poor vehicle quality, poor safety performance, traffic congestion caused by buses, pollution caused by buses, especially by old buses that should be removed because they are out of their life cycle, mistreatment of passengers, especially from the conductors or the bus drivers. These are problems perceived that should be changed. Now, some operational measures to improve the financial viability of public transportation. So in this equation, there are two things that we can change: the reduction of the costs and the increase in revenues, thus increasing the ridership. As far as the costs are concerned, an organizational restructuring can be considered and should be considered in order to change things that are not done in an efficient way and in an effective way. Sharing of employees' rolling stock and facilities between different companies, especially when you have split up the contracts. Cutting of underutilized routes and shifting resources to the most profitable services. Now, as far as the ridership and the revenues are concerned, we have more actions there that we can do, like fare increase the price of the ticket, increase of public transport use by actions that make it more attractive, like branding or marketing, commercial activities, advertising, property rentals, etc. Complementary policies like area-wide traffic calming, road pricing, taxation to make carriers more expensive, so on and so forth. And last but not least, private sector financial support. Now, again, at your own pace, you can watch this video. It's on the internal web area website of the platform. And once you see it, you can complete homework number 7. Now, factors influencing the bus system efficiency, one of the perceived problems of public transportation that we said before. Now, the regulatory framework is one of the factors that influence the bus system efficiency. Regulatory framework, like how many companies should be there, what are the contracts, and how the assignment process should take place, and so on and so forth. Fair control from central governments or national governments, enforcing rules and regulations, route planning, interchange facilities, through ticketing between especially different operators, operating structures and company sizes, vehicle sizes and types of vehicles, fleet sizes, excessive operating costs, operating practices, vehicle maintenance, bus utilization, revenue integrity, competition in the market between different companies, competition from the informal sector, from black market. Now, how did the public transport company try to decrease some of these operational deficiencies? In Victoria Gasteiz in Spain, you can see it in this video. Again, in the platform, in the internal platform, you can see it offline. And once you complete this video, you can complete also homework number 8. Now, it's time for actions, and based on our experience so far and what we have seen taking place so far, these are some actions that can be done rather quickly and can offer some quick wins to the public transport authority or to the municipality or to the local government that tries to increase the popularity, increase the ridership of the public transportation. Which are these quick wins? First of all, make public transportation faster by providing dedicated lanes, give public transport priority at traffic signals, use real-time data to control public transport operations and improve planning, actively promote public transportation in neighborhoods, improve safety in public transport modes and stops, provide websites with public transport related information, integrate public transportation with cycling. Now, bus lanes in Europe have a range of application applications. For example, over here in Madrid, it can be used by taxis and buses. In Paris, by bicycles and buses. In Zurich, by buses, and also nowadays by bicycles. Now, dedicated lanes improve public transport operations, but have to be carefully designed. Advantages: the decrease in travel time for the buses, increase in schedule adherence, increase in bus service reliability, improvement of bus passenger journey times, encourage use of public transportation, reduction of traffic pollution, a safer lane for cyclists. Now, the disadvantages: increase of average queue lengths and car delays, loss in parking provisions, deterioration of operating conditions in the surrounding areas, and implementation costs. It is rather expensive to use these bus lanes. Now, bikes can use and can share the bus lanes. Cyclists are not squeezed between the cars. Bus traffic tends to be relatively light. Bus drivers are professionally trained to coexist with cyclists, and buses can merge partway into the adjacent lane to overtake a cyclist. Now, disadvantages: a decrease of average bus speed because the bus drivers have to pay attention to the cyclists, increase in accidents, and private public transport operators' unwillingness to support those schemes. Practical examples. Now, actively promote public transport in neighborhoods. First, branding. You can see here the branding that some of the metro and the public transport authorities across Europe have chosen, like the Underground here in London, the metro in Madrid, or the metro in Brussels. Also, advertising is something that should be considered, like creating and publicizing events, creating directly mailing leaflets, and creating public transport service maps and transit guides that can familiarize users with the transport system. Media relations, publishing helpful hints about transit in local newspapers and magazines, posting additional real-time transit information on the internet, sponsoring community events, and promotions like establishing ride-free days, introducing weekly, monthly tickets for commuters, and so on and so forth, especially in the European Eco-Mobility Week in September. Now, accessible bus stop characteristics. A bus stop should be convenient for the passenger. It should have connectivity with footways, approach and exit path for buses, ticket machines, information. Bus passenger shelters and seating should be sufficient, and also a waiting area should be provided. Bus stops, flags and surface markings, security including lighting, and last but not least, position of the street furniture. Now, in order to attract more passengers, public transport modes and stops need to provide secure travel and waiting areas, and in order to do that, most of the public transport authorities have chosen CCTVs, along with provision of enough bus shelters and lighting at stops. Now, accessibility improvements to and from stops. In order to make public transport more efficient and accessible to all passengers, including the vulnerable groups like elderly, children, and people with reduced mobility, and allow easy and unobscured access to and from the stop, the following should be considered, including the vehicle design, like low floor bed buses, better public transport stops design, and provision of accurate information to the passenger. Where are these protected bus stops? Where are the shelters and bus stops, and so on and so forth? Now you can see on the left a good example of public transport stop, a tram stop. We have the shelter here, seating availability for everyone, and also ironings for the bicycles. On the right, the bus stop is this is a bad example of a bus stop. The flags are not apparent. There is no safety and no secure spacing for the users, and also the markings are not apparent because they have been dissolved by water. couple more good examples here. For example, in this one here, the bus stop is completely disaggregated from the main road. And this is also the same here in the right icon. Now, provision of website with public transport related information. This website should have timetables and routes, should have a door-to-door journey planner. Nowadays, this is quite cheap to be done through Google. Google has this availability built in Google Maps. Maps of public transport network and public transport stops, and information public transport operators, of course. This is one of the best examples you can see here. Over here in the TfL of London, over here TfL has live information about the status of the lines of the public transport operations, journey planner, and also maps, along with other useful information for the users. Now, integration of public transport with cycling. We have a couple of different schemes here that you can use. Bike and ride. Bike and ride means that in a journey chain, the traveler cycles to the nearest public transport stop, parks the bike, and travels onward using public transportation. Some good examples of good storage facilities, and this is one of the most important things that the public transport authority should consider: safe and secure places for parking the bicycles. In France, all metro and RER stations have covered and guarded bike parking facilities. In Germany and Netherlands, all main train stations have facilities for storage of bikes. And similar schemes are also built up in the United Kingdom, in Belgium, in Sweden, and in Switzerland. Now, bike, ride and bike. This is when the cyclist uses his bike to go to the nearest public transport station and then brings the bike on board the public transport mode and then bikes again to his final destination. Necessary actions here. Public transport means should become more efficient carrying bicycles equipped with bike racks or enough space within the wagons to store the bikes. And bicycle access to and from the transit stops should be improved. And it should be improved through paths, building new paths, building bike lanes and road improvements that would facilitate the access to the transit stations. The last one is the ride and bike scheme. Ride and bike is where someone uses the public transportation to reach his destination or close to his destination, and then in the transit stop he rents a bike or he uses a bike from a bike sharing scheme and cycles to his final destination. Necessary actions there. Travelers need an efficient way of performing short practical urban trips, and this is where the bike sharing schemes help and support this. And it is important to build up this automated scheme. Integrated ticketing. What is an integrated ticketing system? Where someone uses one ticket throughout the chain, no matter how many different operators he may use. Electronic technologies are used nowadays. Most common of them is the magnetic stripe cards, smart cards, and paper cash tickets allowing transfers within specified areas. Now, traveler benefits. Simplified switching between transport modes and transport operators increases the passenger satisfaction, creates a level playing field for use. It requires only one card to use throughout the journey. It's flexible, and the card is more flexible than the traditional paper tickets. It offers the best price for a journey as well as additional discounting opportunities that may arise. Greater inducement to travel by public transportation and improved journey times. You don't have to go buy different tickets each time you change from operators. Also, for the operators, there are some benefits. Of course, the efficiency is improved and the costs are reduced. You have increased ridership, so more revenues for the operator. Reduction in cash and cash handling requirement, reducing the risk there. Flexibility in fare policy and product definition. Reduced dwell time at stops, especially for the buses and the trams. Reduced transaction administrative costs. Reduced fraud with the tickets, with the paper tickets. vastly improved availability of travel data and passenger behavior, better capacity and network planning, and more reliable and efficient services. Now, park and ride schemes. Park and ride or incentive parking are car parking facilities with connections to public transportation. Benefits: they provide a good way for commuters to avoid the difficulties and costs of parking within the city center, where you have traffic calming measures being introduced. They provide great relief from traffic congestion, since people are encouraged to use public transport instead of personal vehicles. And last but not least, they are useful as a fixed meeting place for travelers who engage in carpooling or kiss and ride. Now, the scheme, we have a scheme, one of the best schemes is in Cambridge, the Cambridge Park and Ride system. We have 5 main radial routes into Cambridge, and at the end of these radial routes there is a parking facility available. Those parking facilities provide 5,000 free parking spaces for vehicles, and they are connected, and as you can see here, this is the shelter for the connection with different bus routes to the city center. Now, financing of public transportation. Now, which are the best ways to find financing for your public transport operator, for your public transport authority? First of all, revenues from fares. National sources, governmental funds, subsidies, for example, from local sustainable transport fund in the UK or funds from ministries. Other funding options like road charging, all the revenues from road charging should be devoted to public transport. Parking pricing, emission fees, marketing space for sale or rent in the buses or in the wagons of the underground, so on and so forth. European sources like cohesion funds, ERDF, ISPA, and ITEREC also provide for adequate funding. Banks like World Bank, EIB, EBRD, and commercial banks also provide for interest-free or low-interest loans. The NSRF 2007 to 2013 and the one coming up 2014 to 2020, they have many different operational programs there to support public transportation and safety of passengers and so on and so forth, and many other local opportunities that may arise, like private companies subsidizing a specific route in a specific area. Now, public transport financing through the road charging in London. It was introduced in February 2003 in order to reduce congestion, make radical improvements to bus services, improve journey time reliability for car users, and make the distribution of goods and services more efficient. It's actually is based on cameras at entrances, and there's a standard fare and charge for each vehicle going in and out. Now, out of this, you can see here in the TfL that the congestion charging scheme, it's 8% of the total revenues of public transport operations in the UK. Additionally, rent and commercial advertising is 4%, is even less, but those can really make up for losses in the public transport balances. The last topic for today, public transport contracts and assignments. We have different schemes here, from the completely free market ones to the completely regulated ones. Now, the first one is the unlicensed, unregulated, unsupported private operations. So there's no preset level of service or fare. There's no preset fare structure, and generally they are operated where the government is very weak, and typically in low-income contexts or in fast-growing areas. The second one is the licensed and unsupported private operations. So it's the first step that the government can take in order to regulate the market. The licensing is intended to limit the number of operators and or to impose some standards on them. The revenues from license fees also provide the means for enforcement in this category. The third one is the licensed but publicly supported private operations. may still have the government-wide control in selecting routes and schedules, and also the private sector, but some measure of public control is usually expected in return. The public government, the central government, can give some funds there in order to subsidize the revenues of these companies, of the public transport companies. The service hours can be expanded to guarantee the service provided on the and is adhered to the schedule. Fourth one is the publicly planned and supported private operations. So the planning of the routes is done publicly. A central authority is doing the planning and the routing. Private operators deliver the services, and the responsibility for the routes, schedules, and other service design issues are placed on the planning authority. Public support depends on each case, so it's a case by case. You have subsidies from the planning authority or the central government to the private operator, and this is the dominant model in most of the South America. The fifth and the last one is the publicly planned, publicly supported, publicly operated network. So it's usually no private operator there, no competition whatsoever. So have only one company licensed for one mode or one area. It's similar to public monopoly in electricity or water. The services have to be coordinated in order to maximize benefits for the public from the investments in multimodal public transport systems, and this was the predominant model in North America and the European Union, although these days this is slightly abolished. Now, the Balancing Act facing the public authority, so we have three different agents there, and all of them having conflicting objectives. The public goal set for the authority require for maximum ridership, minimum subsidy in an efficient city. However, the service standards that are set by the authority for the vehicle quality, the service levels, and the fare structure are a bit opposed to the goal set by the operator, who are to have maximum profits, maximum wage or non-demanding work rules, especially from the public. Now, contracting models for operations and maintenance. The gross contract model, characteristics of this model is that it's planned and administered by a public agency separate from public and private operating entities. The public subsidy is set through competitive proposals to operate services. The winning operator commits to a certain level of service by time obtained by route. A contract could be cancelled in the middle of its term in case of underperformance compared to the KPIs, the key performance indicators. Now, from the funding agency's perspective, the positive things are that it gives incentive for cost control in order to maximize profit, but the negative issue is that there's lack of incentive to improve service or attract additional passengers. Now, from the public transport authority's perspective, it has a high employee turnover rate compared to the net one. The net contract model characteristics, this is on the other way around. The characteristics of this model, the public agency is in charge of service planning. Public subsidy is sufficient to guarantee only a minimum level of service. The remainder of the financial support has to come from operating revenues. The contract operator has an incentive to deliver higher quality service to maintain revenue and ridership. Now, from the public transport authority's perspective, the positive issue is that it gives strong incentive to the operator to participate in the creation of additional ridership. The negative thing is that there is a potential loss of control. Now, we can see here, depending on the level of public influence desired, there are the two models that can be applied. If, for example, public authority doesn't want to intervene too much, then the net contract model is ideal. If the public authority or the central government wants to interfere more, then the gross contract model is more applicable for this case. Now, a composite contract model has been developed for the past years. Characteristics: depending on its case, it captures positive points of gross and net contract models. It has a quality bonus in most of the cases based on the periodic survey of customers, so there are KPIs there that the public transport operators should meet. It adds a percentage of revenues collected to the gross amount paid in the contract, and this bonus creates an incentive to the operator to increase ridership. The operators themselves cannot remove or amend service offerings as long as these changes meet the approval of the authority, of the public transport authority, and it can be modified with minimum wage requirements to reduce staff turnover. So this is it for today for public transport models and how to improve the ridership. If you want some clarifications or if you want any additional issues to discuss, you can send me an email in igk@decisiondyne.com, igk@decisiondyne.com. Thank you very much for your attention.